We're here today with Curtis Youngblood, the legendary Curtis Youngblood, the one that's won most awards is my hero. He's the one who's created the, I guess he's considered the godfather of 3D flying.
The old guy of 3D flying, yeah.
Okay. Now, I would like to move the floor to Curtis. You can say hello to everybody in the Philippines.
Oh, hello, Philippines.
Okay.
Mabuhay.
Yeah, let's see. So, maybe we can start things off by simply having a short introduction about yourself so that way, you know, we get a feel for it. How did you get started in the hobby and what progressed into it and where we are now, so to speak?
Yeah, well, I started in the hobby with my father. He's been flying in the hobby since the 1950s. Airplanes and helicopters in the 70s, so I grew up in pictures of me as a little kid around helicopters with him. So I grew up doing helicopters and started helicopters in the early 80s and did contests with my dad and went to college, you know, mechanical engineer, and ended up making models for a living and competing and having fun, basically.
Wow, okay. It seems like you're taking the word fun to a completely new level. What I want to know is that since you also have a product in the market, because you're one of the sponsors of this particular event, and the fact that you also have one of your helicopters that's in there, okay. There are a few helicopters jockeying for position in the field, obviously. We all know that there are a few brands out there that are very good and some are improving in some aspects and things like that. What I want to know is this. You obviously have the Rave that's already out, okay? And it's your design. Yeah, the little Rave. And then the Envy is already out, but yet Asia hasn't gotten its production yet, so to speak. What would you say from your own design and the distinct difference between your helicopter and the rest of the helicopters out there, so to speak?
Sort of, why did we make the Rave, kind of?
Yeah,
you know, why go there?
Yeah.
I mean, for us, the big thing about the Rave is simplicity. In other words, we fly them daily. We want them to be easy to maintain. When they crash, we want them to break as little as possible so we can get back in the air and fly some more. We also like to fly a lot of different types of things. I mean, we like to fly nitro, we like to fly electric, we like to fly flybar, we like to fly flybarless. And with the Envy, we've done that. The kits come in all the different versions. It's easy to convert between them. I mean, converting from nitro to electric takes 20 minutes. When you have the parts, it's literally 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Flybar to flybarless. I mean, if you have a flybar head, you go flybarless. If you buy the parts, it's just a head block, a couple of arms, and ball links. All the rest is compatible. They convert very easily between them. So you can even decide to fly one and switch to something else. Nick and myself both switch between them, nitro and electric all the time.
Within the same day.
Within the same day we do that sometimes. Yeah, like we'll get to an event, nitro, and either the fuel we had to use at that event was no good, or we ruined the engine, did something. We'll just switch it to electric and keep going.
Wow.
And we basically did it to fit around what we needed, honestly. And the good thing is I think it fits a lot of other people. People like simplicity, they like versatility, and they like just simple quality stuff. And that's what we're aiming at.
Okay. Now, the pricing in itself, the way you priced it, seems to be reasonably fair. What would you say about that, and how did you come up with those formulas, and how does it compare with other market prices?
Yeah, we tried to be really good with the pricing. I mean, it's always a balance on what you do. I mean, you could always make it just outrageous, but then nobody's going to want it. And you got to have it priced well. You got to make a lot of choices so that it does fit the market well. And I think it does. I mean, I think we're very competitively priced, both kits and parts, especially crash. When you crash, probably not going to break as many parts, but when you do, they're not that expensive.
You mean you designed it so that when it does crash, it doesn't have that many parts to break?
Yes. I mean, well, a simple example. We did the mainframe. Most kits' mainframes are one piece. We did mainframe, which is the main piece, and then a small piece underneath the radio tray is what attaches your front landing gear. And when you crash, you tend to only break that one little frame brace, not the whole thing.
Wow.
So you can just replace that one piece.
Okay.
Now, if you do a massive crash, who knows what you're going to break. But normal crashes, you are not going to damage major components. So crashes usually cost you less. Whereas on some other kits, you'll crash, will just break the bottom tab of the frame. The whole frame's gone. We tried to design around that so you don't have that problem.
Okay. Now, in terms of pricing, again, just going back to pricing, it seems like that seems to be a very big factor when it comes to choosing the right heli and whatever that goes along with it. Compared to most of the other name brands that we know that are out in the market, how is your pricing fitting in, so to speak, like in comparison to others?
It depends on different markets. Some kits are cheaper or more expensive depending on where you go. Ours?
The parts itself.
Oh, parts?
Yeah.
Parts, It's well, it depends on again which kit you're comparing to, but like compared to something like a line, we're generally very comparable on most parts. Some parts are slightly more, some parts are slightly less, but on average they're about the same. That's probably the best way to compare it.
Okay, all right.
I think it's generally a premium. It's a very high-end kit as far as the quality of what we're getting out there. The build part is very easy, but you're not paying ridiculous FAI type high-end prices for a lot of stuff. It's very reasonable.
Okay. Your helicopter, is it? I mean, we were actually stunned when you actually won. Well, Nick Maxwell won the 3D Masters, and then you won the F3C.
Yeah, the U.S. National Championship.
And then he came in second. Putting a long story short, it seems like the helicopter has the ability to do both.
Yes, well, we tend to. That's again, we're selfish. We designed it around what we like to do, and both me and Nick also both enjoy doing FAI and 3D, and so I wanted to make sure the machine could do both.
So it's a 2-in-1 when it comes to flight caliber, and then a 2-in-1 when it comes to electric and nitro.
Yes. Yeah, and we like it. It's still very precise, so it does very well on FAI. In fact, after we flew at the Nationals, a lot of the guys in the U.S. now are switching over to it for FAI because it's obviously considerably less expensive compared to most FAI equipment. Most FAI equipment is quite expensive, and ours I think keeps the quality, keeps the very precision flying, but it's nowhere near the kind of price levels. It's much better pricing.
And on top of that, let's not forget that the flybarless 2-in-1 again is another one. So there's 3 2-in-1s altogether. So we call it 6-in-1.
Yeah, there's a lot of options. Yeah, a lot of good options.
Okay, moving along from there, the helicopter, we noticed that the flybar is on top. Most flybars are actually under the rotor blades. So
nowadays they are. Nowadays they used to be actually, but now they are. Yeah.
What made you decide to keep it that way? Type of thing?
Actually, what I found over the years, and it played out true with this one. In general, I found the top flybars are more stable. They track better, they groove better. I can honestly say I'm not exactly sure why. We have theories, but every one I've tried, when you put the flybar on top, the model tracks better. For a given aerobatic performance, it tracks better. And even the little Rave and the big Rave are both top flybar, and they both track very well compared to their counterparts of similar size with bottom flybars.
Now, if you have that kind of a point of view, then what happens when you go flybarless?
Relative to the stability?
Yeah.
Well, then it's a moot point. I mean, there's no flybar, so it doesn't matter if it's top or bottom anymore. The flybarless is its own stability system. So, and the height of the head system on the flybar and flybarless is the same, and so that gives us a safe distance above the boom. And so basically, we just chop the top off to make it flybarless.
The Rave in itself, Rave is considered the small one. It's considered one of the most expensive 450s in the world right now. Okay. What are your plans with that? Because everybody else seems to be playing on the pricing itself. Right?
Yeah.
Is that going to stay the way?
For us, I don't think we're not really into playing the cheapest game for who's going to be the cheapest. We just want to have a really good model. You know you're going to get it. You're going to enjoy flying it. It's going to fly well, and that's been our focus. It's not really been. I think when you start battling for dollar, you're going to lose. I mean, when you got people that are selling kits for $20, you're not going to win that game. And we have no real reason to, in the sense that's not what we're wanting to do. We want when they get a kit, it's a good kit. And we know we stand behind it on getting them quality parts, and they're going to enjoy flying it.
Okay. If we're going to move on to that that topic in itself, lastly, what would you say that would be distinctly different with the Rave compared to the current general run-of-the-mill or the current general name brands that are currently out there? So just as a last point.
As far as why a Rave as opposed to something else?
Yeah.
The big thing with the Rave, and a lot of people comment if you check forums or something else, the big thing about the Rave is it flies like a much bigger model. I'd flown a lot of 450s before we designed the Rave, and my complaint was it flew like a little helicopter. I mean, it was in some way, it was fun, but it was in some ways kind of annoying because it was splitty and didn't really track well and that kind of stuff. So we worked really hard with the Rave to make it very precise. When you fly it, it feels like you're flying a big model. It even looks bigger. It's got a bigger canopy. It's a little closer to like almost a 500 size, but it's the pricing or all the cost of all the parts are more like a smaller model. When you crash it, the cost isn't quite as big. But it flies like a big model. You can get the 350 blades, so it does aerobatics really good, does really good in big spaces. It's good, does good auto rotations. Most 450s are just, okay, you're down safe and that's it. Whereas the Rave, you can actually do nice autos. It tracks well, rolls well, and so it feels like you're flying a bigger model than you are.
That's the general rule.
Yeah. We want you to, you don't want to feel like you have a little toy. I mean, it's like you have a big, one of the big Raves. It even looks almost exactly like the big Rave, but it's more compact version. It's easy for me to carry around in my luggage and travel to events and fly it, and I enjoy flying it as much as I enjoy flying the big Rave.
Sounds good. Which actually moves us down to total G, because at the end of the day, that's what we need to put it in together.
Yeah, and that works flybar or flybarless, but yeah.
So, how did you come about developing total G, and what's the distinct advantage of it compared to other flybarless systems?
Well, in all honesty, the total G came about because my father, who I learned to fly with, he wanted to do a flight control system years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago. He went down that road to do that because he wanted the stability in the aerobatics. And he spent years developing it. And it turned, I was actually kind of late in wanting to really pursue it, honestly, because I liked the way the flybar flew, and I don't want to mess with that. And it was about 4 or 5 years ago, where I got on board about really wanting to do it after flying some of his prototypes. And it slowly turned into a product for us to sell. And the main difference between ours and a lot of other ones is ours generally is an all-in-one system. In other words, it's the flight control, it's the gyro, it's the governor. If you're running a Spectrum system, you really just plug everything to it. You don't have a separate receiver, and so it really cleans everything up. You really have a battery to your total G and your servos.
So is it, again, another 6-in-1 we're talking about?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It gives you a lot of options, and you can even, if you want to fly a flybar, you simply turn off the flight control part. You have to, there's a setting option. You say flybar, and you fly flybar, and it keeps the gyros off for the flight control. So you use it as a gyro and a governor, because you can use the governor electric also. And then if you decide to go flybarless, you just change it to flybar. To flybarless and fly the gyros.
So obviously the governor is also in. If you use the Spectrum system, you plug it in and the thing, and then that would already work. That's only for the Spectrum system.
If you use an external receiver like Futaba, Airtronics, Sanwa, those, you can just use an external receiver and plug that direct in.
Yes.
So you can use that as well if you choose, and you can still use the governor. You can use all kinds of things that way.
Okay. So another, I guess you could call 5-in-1, 6-in-1, but obviously at the end of the day, it's good value, because when you buy one of those little things, you don't have to worry about anything else.
Yes, you've got everything in there.
Yeah, it's a lot lighter. You have less to worry about. You put it all together, and there you go. It flies. You came up with that. There was a few things in there. I was told that the governor has certain advantages compared to many other governors. Is that correct?
Yeah, it has. You can run it as a standard governor mode, which is really just a dumb governor in the sense that you ignore throttle curves, and it just goes in RPM and stays there. And then it has what we call active mode. And active mode, what you can actually do is you can set it up. What you can do, you set it up without a governor on. You just turn the governor off, set up your throttle curves to get the best performance with the throttle curves. Then you turn on active mode. And what active mode does is it follows the throttle curves and does what you're asking it to do. It allows you to overspeed it a little bit or underspeed it a little bit to get a certain performance, but then it'll keep the RPM within a certain range. There are some governors out there that has a limiter mode where it'll keep it from overspeeding. Ours is almost like a dual limiter mode. It'll keep it from going too high or too low about your throttle curves.
So it just follows exactly what the throttle curve does.
It follows what the throttle curve does, unless you've skewed the throttle curve wrong and it really starts to overspeed or really starts to underspeed, it'll cap that off. And the advantages of that is if you know your engine, you know your setup, you can actually get more power and performance out of it. Because there's some maneuvers where you'll be pulling around and you want it to overspeed so you can really pop into some other maneuver. If you got a regular governor, it won't let you get that overspeed. It won't let you get that extra blade energy. So what you can do is have it where the range is on the active mode to let it overspeed a little bit there, get that blade energy and really pop it. But it'll keep it from overspeeding too much. You won't get any kind of a dangerous range. So like 30 to 50 RPM, it'll let it overspeed and let you really pop it.
Okay. Is there any distinction between the cyclic gyro that it has in it compared to the others that are out in the market? Is there anything special about it that you have designed?
Basically, the main difference, there's a lot of different kinds of sensors you can use for the cyclic stuff. The main difference on ours, there's several differences. One is the logic that we use. Some systems use a logic where they're trying to copy what a flybar does and do their best to emulate a flybar, whereas we're very different from that. We went from the idea that we want them off to fly perfect, whereas a flybar doesn't. A flybar does all kinds of weird stuff. You do loops, a flybar goes crooked. You do rolls, it corkscrews. You do pirouettes, it kind of goes off in funny directions. We went a little more for If you point it in a straight line, it goes in a straight line. You pull to do a loop, it does a straight loop. You do a roll, it does a straight roll. We were going much more for a basic straight gyro kind of thing. The other thing we did is we went more for a high-speed, high-processing system. So we actually have multiple processors in it.
It has more buses, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It was actually 4 processors in it. 4 separate processors.
So we're doing Intel with 4 chips.
Yeah, it's 4 separate things doing different functions. So where some of them actually get bogged down in doing some of the processing, and that's why some of them, you'll feel delays when you fly. So actually, a lot of them you can't do low 3D stuff with it because you feel a delay, and that's largely processing. You can't process all the information, so it's got a delay. Ours doesn't have that, so you can get a much more connected feel when you're flying it.
Okay, that's going to be very interesting because I'm since your Rave has just come out, and I can't buy the current flybar-less head because it's all out of stock right now.
Oh yeah, unfortunately. That's one of our problems. Unfortunately, when it's in, it then goes out immediately. Unfortunately, that's a good but bad thing at the same time.
Yeah, one of my customers were lucky enough to get the last piece, and I don't have one. I got one with my flybar head on it, and then I got my Total G underneath, and it's flying beautifully, but I can't try the flybar like that. But I'm about to try it with my, how do you call this, with my JR, I guess, because I have the thing to do with the flybar. That's basically about it. To cover it all up, and I know that you have to get back to work.
Yeah, okay, more work to do. The hands are all dirty.
No problem. I understand. So thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to seeing you guys at a different event, and it's been a slice.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.